Alright, so here we are up close and personal with the Mad Heaters Revolve stem. So I just wanted to show you all the different bits and bobs, how it comes in the package and all that. So first of all, speaking of the package, this is the package I received. So you get this pretty sturdy cardboard tube. The ring here is going to indicate the color. So as you can see, mine is the midnight blue. If you have black or silver or rainbow, whatever, it's going to be a different color to match. Inside, you have this other test tube looking deal. Now this is decent plastic. I'm not sure what kind of plastic, but it is safe for isopropyl. So you can actually use this as a cleaning tube if you want. Throw everything in there, shake it up with some iso. Much easier than wasting a bunch of plastic bags. So nice, airtight, good seal. And in there was the stem assembled with a baggie of extras. And this doesn't come in the standard kit, but we'll get to that in a second. So when you buy the standard kit, it's going to come with all the pieces I have here, as well as an instruction manual and a little microfiber cloth and some stickers. I don't have those in the video just because I figured they're not really that important, but it was a nice touch on the packaging, so I really do appreciate that. Now getting into the main device, we have a few different parts here. Definitely a little more than your standard Dynavap stem. So let's get into the main body here. So they refer to these as the sleeve. So as you can see, nice sleeve. It is a little wider than like an M or an Omni body at this side, but it does taper out to a nice thinner sort of 10mm size. Actually, the mouthpiece is a 10mm taper. You then have the mouthpiece itself, which on its own is a little confusing just to look at like this, but I'll show you how it works in a sec. You do have the GRC draw resistance control tube. So this has these two slits here, which interface with the main cooling stem and basically allow you to control the airflow from the inside as well as the outside. But we'll get into that in a sec. So then the main thing here, the Revolve cooling unit, I guess you call it. I'm not sure what the official name is, but this whole assembly here is basically the star of the show. This is where all the magic really happens, at least with regards to cooling. Last little piece I'm gonna talk about here, you don't have to use it. They do include a few of them in the kit, and these are these little extra mesh screens. So you notice it has these two cutouts on the side. Those line up and interface perfectly with these little pincers on the cooling unit. So so as you can see there, it does just snap and hold into place on those two little sort of teeth that are sticking out of the bottom of the cooling unit here. So this basically goes right after your tip when you have everything assembled with the Dynavap tip. And the idea here is that it's gonna stop any extra solid particles from getting through your CCD while you're inhaling. So it's supposed to kind of help keep things a little cleaner on the inside of the stem. Personally though, I haven't really been using it that much. I used it when I first got the stem, and I did find that the gunk just sort of built up right on top of here, so you have to go in and kind of Q-tip out this area every once in a while. It's not a huge deal, but personally I found just using it without the screen, I didn't notice that much of a bigger difference in the cooling or the feel of the hit. And also I just found I didn't have to go in and clean as often, because when I was using the mesh filter here, I was cleaning it at least once a day. And now I've been going a couple days without cleaning it. That's nice. So optional thing, if you have like maybe really sensitive throat or sensitive lungs, it could be helpful just to have that extra bit of filtration, but just know you will have to clean it a little bit more often. Now the last thing that comes in the standard package is this secondary cooling unit. So this is just your little standard kind of cooling spiral. And how this goes in is into the DRC tube or the direct flow tube, whichever one you choose to use. So basically, right now we have it in the spinning position up here. Oh yeah, that's another thing. You can lock or unlock the mouthpiece, but I'll show you that as well. So if you move it down here, you line up these little spider legs with the notches in the mouthpiece. That's gonna slide in, and then simply roll that O-ring back up top here. And now we have a secondary cooling unit in play just to add a little extra cooling right before it gets to your mouth. I like using this installed actually, so I'm gonna leave it in. Now, this brings me to the actual assembly. So how does everything fit together? How does everything work? There are different sleeve options, which I'll show you after we show you the main assembly here. But basically, regardless of what sleeve you're using, you're gonna have the side where the air port is closest to. So that's where you want to put in the cooling unit. Snaps right in like so. Now, to install the mouthpiece, there's two different options. So if I go like this, it's kind of loose on there. You do have to slide this through. But once I slide in the DRC tube, now that's holding it in place. But I have a super fun spinny mouthpiece. So very useful if you like to heat with a torch. It makes it really, really easy to spin super fast, get a nice deep extraction that way. I'm gonna be mostly using an induction heater later today, so I'm gonna switch it back over to the fixed mouthpiece mode, and I'll show you how to do that. So if you wanted to keep it in fixed mouthpiece mode, and you don't wanna use the secondary cooling unit, so if you were to take the cooling unit out, you'd simply just roll this O-ring down to the notch here, and then it makes a solid connection with the mouthpiece and can't spin. Since I want to keep using the SCU, the secondary cooling unit, I'm actually going to put my second O-ring here, slide that up, and voila. Now we can just pop that in, and you see now it's a solid unit and it's gonna stay in place when we put it on the stem. So whether if you just prefer to have a solid one, you have that option no matter if you wanna use the secondary cooling unit or not. And you also have the option to put it in a spinning mode if you prefer, heating with a torch, or if you just prefer to have the ability to spin more freely. So a lot of options there already, and I haven't even gotten to the actual adjustments yet. Now what I'll do here, just to illustrate what's actually going on, let's take a look closer in to this little ring here. So you can see this adjustment ring has several different notches cut into it, and those are all gonna indicate a different setting once they're lined up with the air port. So in this setting, we have the line that lines up with the airport line here. Just a straight line, so that's giving you fully opened airports. If we move over clockwise to the next notch here, you can see now we have like a partially closed. One more over, now you see we have these two lines with a sort of block in the middle. That is a fully closed. And we go all the way back around to this weird one where the notch is coming here. Now that's an open airport, but it's actually bypassing the cooling unit. So the air is actually going directly in here right before the mouthpiece for really, really intense cooling. Like if you have a very sensitive throat, you want a lot of cooling, that's the setting you're gonna enjoy. Personally, I don't really like using the bypass mode because I find it cools it down too much for my taste and kills a little bit of the flavor. But again, if you have a sensitive throat, if you don't care too much about the terpy flavor, this is kind of the setting you're gonna wanna use. And we go back around, now we're full open again. Now personally, I've been using this in the closed position. And the reason for that is because you also have another way to adjust the airflow. So this ring is really just adjusting how the fresh air comes in from the outside, or if it comes in from the outside at all. But let me remove the cooling unit so I can show you what's happening with the DRC adjustment. So you can see on this side of the cooling unit, there's kind of a opening here. There's another opening on this side. I believe this is where the main vapor comes in. It's a little confusing, to be honest, looking at the diagram on the manual, but basically, if you look here, it is actually closed. So like this middle part, unlike a normal Dynavap condenser where that would be completely hollow all the way through, when you're using the DRC tube, it's closed at the bottom. So you basically are getting it coming out here and then around into here. We can adjust the inner airflow here as well. So I've been using it with the closed airport, and then I adjust my airflow this way. So we kind of lightly pull up on the mouthpiece until it snaps into place. then it's gonna reveal this little triangle. And if you look around the airflow ring on the, so you can see it's cut sort of differently here. So on this side, we have these 3 little notches cut. That's 3 different mouth to lung settings. So that's the tighter airflow settings. And yeah, there's 3 of them. So that would be this smaller notch. And as you're turning it between the 3, it reveals or closes off more of the slot to get an even tighter airflow. So if you like that super tight mouth to lung, like sucking a golf ball through a hose airflow, you want to go all the way tight and maybe close the airport as well. You can totally do that. I feel like with the airport all the way open and the smallest mouth to lung setting, it's tighter even than an Omni, but it still gives me a feel like I'm vaping an Omni. Kind of an interesting thing. But to adjust it on the fly, basically we pull the mouthpiece out slightly so that this notch catches on that inner O-ring, and then we can use the notches on top here of the direct flow tube to twist it around. And basically you want the triangle to point to the setting you want on the top here. So I've actually been using the opposite side. This is the mouth to lung side I told you about. But then on this side where it's kind of like an open gap, that's the direct airflow side, and that just basically doesn't really matter where you put it on that slot, it's gonna be pretty much fully open. And that's how I've been liking it. Direct flow all the way opened with the outside airport closed. So let me just set it up in that config. Bada bing. Okay, so that pretty much sums up what's in the standard Revolve package. Now, since I got this directly from Mad Heaters, they did include some extra accessories for me. So first accessories we have are different sleeves. Number 1, and I'll say it, my personal favorite, is the wood sleeve here. So this is a maple wood, and they have them dyed in different colors. You can also get one that's just natural wood colored. The inside is fully lined with stainless steel, and it's a nice, pretty decent thick amount of wood out there too. They also include little Mad Heaters wax with that as well. This one I like just because having the wood makes it so the stem doesn't get too hot if you want to do back-to-back sections, which I really appreciate because I often do back-to-back sessions. The titanium does get really hot down by the fin area. So if you're using this one, you want to stay with your fingers kind of closer to the airport. Even if you're using the airport closed, you want to have your fingers kind of up more to this side because those fins do go pretty high up the device and they do get quite warm. With this one, not so much of an issue. Other sleeves I got here, we have glass sleeves. So there's 3 different ones that were sent to me. I'm not sure if that's 100% of the options. Our first one here, glass sleeve, pretty simple, just clear glass. You have this really cool rainbow glass, sort of electroplated. Not sure how well the color is coming across on camera, but it does have a few different colors in the glass. It's pretty cool while you're rotating it. Looks really cool with the twisty intercooler in there, like all the glass stems do. And the last glass stem option we have here is the lined glass stem. So as you can see, it just has these sort of notches, lines cut in the lower half of the stem, sort of to match up the fins on the regular titanium one. So pretty cool option. Gives you a little more texture if you like to spin and heat with a torch, so that's always nice. And you know, like all the other glass stems, it's gonna give you much nicer flavor. One little downside of all these sleeves that I've found, unfortunately, because of the way the system works, if you have it fully assembled with the mouthpiece and everything, it's around the length of a Dynavap Omni, but because of the way it's cut up, basically the sleeve by itself won't work with a standard Dynavap condenser. At least the ones I tried, they just stick out too far. So I tried using my Omni condenser on it, it stuck out like half an inch at the bottom, and you just have no adjustment, and it won't even close all the way when you put the tip on. So yeah, they're really just made to use with this system. But to be honest, I feel like most people, once you get this, you're not really gonna wanna use other cooling systems for your Dynavap stems anyway. But yeah, just a little bit of a downside. It would have been nice if they could have made the sleeves sort of a standard length, so you could just use them as a regular stem with another Dynavap setup. But you know, it is what it is. What's nice though is if you do get the multiple sleeves, you can pretty easily move it without changing your different options, like your settings. So if I want to keep it with my direct flow setup, I just do that. I don't move the mouthpiece and just pull it out by here. And now my direct flow setting is still maintained. And then if I want to go, let's say, into the glass sleeve, now all I have to do is find the airflow I like, which is closed. Bada bing, bada boom. And yeah, it looks really cool in there with the spiral. Love it. Yeah, so last final piece of accessory thingy that I got with this kit was the direct flow tube. So instead of the DRC, draw resistance control tube, you do have this option of the direct flow tube. So you notice there's no holes down here. And if we turn up here, you can see right through. Essentially using this instead of the DRC tube, it's just basically going to give you more of a traditional Dynavap experience. It turns it into a standard condenser, and then you just have the adjustment of the air port on the outside. So if you want to keep things a little more simple and just go back to more of a standard Dynavap experience, this is a really good one. I've enjoyed using this one through water just because it really closes off that airflow 100%, so you get a direct, bong hit. But mainly I found that the cooling is so good with the Revolve system that I haven't really needed to use water, so I've just been mainly using the old DRC tube and hitting it dry. But yeah, this is an option if you want to have a more standard Dynavap experience, and the secondary cooling unit does make a bit of a bigger difference when using it in the direct flow tube as well. So that's all the parts that are currently available, I believe, at least the ones that were sent to me. So yeah, quite a lot going on here. So that's all the main parts. Now what I'm gonna do here is actually assemble it with the wood sleeve and put my tip on so we can go back up top and start vaping on this thing.